am hoping that you can hear me. We are having some technical difficulties this morning. So hopefully everyone is hopping on board as we speak. You know that I only get 30 minutes with all of you. So I really want to focus on getting the webinar started. So as it stands right now, welcome to Wednesday webinar. We are going to be talking about risk assessments today. What are they? Do you need one? And why, if in fact all of these things apply to you. So I really want to get started. So on the call with me, as usual, is Sarah. Sarah is going to be watching the Q&A. So if you do have any questions throughout this webinar, I do go through it quickly. I only get 30 minutes with you, and I feel like sometimes that's a rush. So if you do have any questions or follow-ups at the very end, I'm going to give you some contact information where you can get in touch with us. Okay, all right, let's get started, guys. Let's talk about some risk assessments. All right, so my goal today is to provide information that ultimately is to protect your business from cyber threats. Okay, and that I think is the priority for everybody. We really want to make sure that there's no holes in your security, and I'm going to teach you today how to determine whether or not there are any holes. So I'm going to give you 3 mistakes business owners are making with their technology. They're going to be easy. I'm going to step them out. So if you have a pencil, get your ready utensil ready. Okay. All right. So here's the 3, right? Believing antivirus is enough. I get that a lot. I talk to a lot of business owners. They make an assumption that, hey, I have antivirus software, I'm good. Okay. Mistake number 2 is missing the warning signs. I'm going to give you what those are. I'm going to give you some warning signs that you guys are now going to pay attention to, so that if you're starting to see those mistakes, those warning signs, you'll be able to act really quickly. And the third one is not seeking some type of validation. So we want to make sure that these 3 mistakes are ones that you attending this webinar are going to be able to fix. Okay, so the first one is believing antivirus is enough. So 75% of ransomware victims report having up-to-date antivirus. So I am sure that many of you realize, just with the amount of stuff that's happening with your email and text messaging and phone calls, that cyber criminals are getting really sophisticated. And being able to have an antivirus software that you're expecting is taking care of all of it is just not realistic. So 1 out of 5 users will click a malicious link. All right, now here's the thing, guys. It may not be you, right? But as a business owner, myself, I have a team. I have a whole team that I have to rely on and depend on that is not going to click anything, is not going to download anything. And I can't stand behind them and watch them. So I have to trust that I'm educating them enough to be able to be suspicious of things that are happening. Okay, you need to do the same thing. 1 out of 5 users are going to click something. So we just want to make sure that you are educating your team with regards to your expectations. Okay. All right. So what can you do? What are some of the things that you can do above and beyond having antivirus software? Okay. So what I'm hoping you have all put into place already, or you're pending that action, is layer your security. Okay. Put layers on. So let me explain it. So very similarly to your home, right? So ideally, your home has layers of security, right? Some of you, all of you should have locks on your doors, right? Some of you will have a fence around your property. Some of you will have an alarm system. Okay. And that is all layers of security that you've put into place in your own environments that really is just a way of protecting. Now, is that going to prevent a break-in? Probably not. Some of you, all of you should have fire alarms in your home. It's a requirement, right? Is that going to prevent you from having a fire? No. It is going to notify you though, right? If your house is burning, right? If something is going on, it is going to notify you. Some of you have a dog, right? You have a dog that will bark if somebody tries to enter your home. So the layers of security you're already implementing in your own environments, right? We just want to switch that. We got to think about that type of concept with regards to your business. Okay. So the first thing I'm hoping you have is a firewall. I need you to have a piece of equipment that is in between you and the internet. And that way, it will block any malicious attacks before it ever gets to you. Okay. Now, with that comes, it's got to be managed. Okay. You got to have somebody watching it. You got to have somebody who is updating it, who is scanning, who is checking to see bandwidth activity. You can't just install a piece of firewall, piece of hardware, an appliance, and just say peace out. Okay. It just doesn't work that way. Equipment has to be managed, it's got to be protected, it's got to be updated. So please verify that you have a firewall in place. All right. Manage security software. Okay. Now I know all of you say, I got antivirus, and it could be something like Norton or McAfee. It could be something a little bit more sophisticated. And I appreciate that. I think that that's better than nothing. But please make sure somebody is paying attention to it. You just can't install it on every computer and make an assumption that it's being updated by the person sitting at that computer, that scans are actually happening on that particular computer. So somebody's got to be watching to make sure that it's actually doing its job. Okay. And then you should have what we consider a barking dog, which is that endpoint detection and response. It's a piece of software that sits on every computer so that if something does happen to get through your firewall and your security, that it's the dog that's going to bark, right? And that endpoint detection and response should be installed on every computer. Okay. All right. So layer your security in your business exactly the way that you're layering your security in your homes. All right. All right. All right, so the second one is missing the warning signs. All right, now I'm going to give you some warning signs of just things I need you to pay attention to. I just want you to be aware of the things that are happening in your own environments. Okay, so how do you know? How do you know your network is secure? How do you know your data is secure? How do you know your email is secure? Okay. Now, I talk to business owners every day, and I always say, hey, what do you have for security software? What do you have for endpoint detection and response? What do you have in place for a firewall? And 90% of the time, when I'm talking to a business owner, right, who loves this company, who thrives in this company, will say, I don't know. They'll say, I don't know. I don't know. So I need you to know that that's the goal here, right? Is I need you to know and I need you to understand. So here's some warning signs I just want you to be watching for. One, is your internet slow? Okay. Is it like random? Is it good today and not so good this afternoon? Is it super fast right now, but really, really slow tomorrow? So you want to be paying attention to the activity of your internet because that could indicate that somebody is trying to use your bandwidth. Okay. So if your internet's slow, be suspicious. Okay. If you can log into your email without being prompted with two-factor authentication. Okay. I know, I hear it. I hear you screaming at me because nobody likes two-factor authentication, right? Nobody. So I get it. I don't like it either. However, I need to have it in place in order to keep my email secure. Okay. So please make sure that two-factor authentication is in place. If you can check your email without being prompted with two-factor, or you don't even know what that is, or you have never activated it, I need you to do that right now. I need you to make sure that two-factor is activated. Okay. If you are getting spam and unwanted email constantly appearing in your mailbox, that's another reason to be concerned. Okay. Spam and unwanted email should be stopped before it ever gets into your inbox. So if you're getting that kind of stuff, I know that you don't have email security in place. So that means it's more your team's more susceptible to clicking on something. Okay. All right. 74% of organizations in the US experienced a successful phishing attack. 74. 65% of those experienced business email compromise, which means somebody hacked into their email, and 47% were infected with some type of ransomware. Okay. Now, unless you are that one company that can afford a six-figure breach, then, right, we're not going to worry about any of these statistics. But I know I can. So, and I'm assuming that you can't either, right? We got to protect your data. We've got to make sure that that you're protecting your company. All right. So what can you do? All right. Here's some steps. Write them down. Make sure everyone is on the lookout. All right. Now I know that seems really easy, but every business I talk to, I'm like, when was the last time you communicated with your team? When was the last time you put into place any type of guidance on how they're checking their email, what they can click on, what they can download? At what point did you ever communicate with them the processes that you put in place? Like when was that? And most of them will say, "Well, I never have." Okay, well, you got to educate, right? You got to make sure that your expectations are clear with regards to how you want your team to manage that. Okay, so make sure everyone is on the lookout, and it's not once a year. This has to be a continual education all the way through. It should be at least be minimally monthly. All right. Have a documented way to get help. All right. So if they do encounter an email, if they do get a request to transfer money, right? They need to transfer money. You're purchasing something and they're doing that via email. What is the process? How do they get help? What happens if a screen pops up and tells them to call a number? Okay, what is that something that they're allowed to do? Right? Are they allowed to do that? And who do they call? Who do they call to determine whether that's okay or not? So make sure you have a documented way to get help, something your team is aware of. Okay, they're good. They're going to be the ones that could potentially put you at risk. Okay, make sure everyone knows what to do. Ultimately, that's the goal. It's not just about you. You got to make sure that that information is shared with your team. Okay. All right. The third one is not seeking validation. Now, this is specifically talking about those risk assessments, which is what this webinar is all about. Okay. I need you to understand with regards to how you're going to know whether your business is secure or not. Okay. And it's kind of similar to the x-rays at the dentist. Okay. So do you get x-rays at the dentist? I know for mine, they do it almost every visit, right? They take a look with x-rays with regards to how my teeth are doing. Okay. So you know that that is something you've all experienced. Okay. Why? Okay. Because they're trying to detect problems that you cannot see with the naked eye. Okay. Now, my dentist can look at my teeth and he can say, yeah, everything looks good. But under the surface, I may have some issues, right? And the only way he can see that is if with an x-ray. Okay. So my question to you is, have you ever had an x-ray of your network? Have you ever had somebody come in that truly could just take a look to see what you have or don't have? Okay. So, have you ever had your security analyzed? Has anybody actually dug in to make sure the things that you're assuming are happening are actually happening? Okay. So, here are a few things that should prompt a third party risk assessment. Okay. If you have ever had a breach, data loss, or ransomware, okay, you're skipping the line. You're skipping the line. If you have ever had a breach, if you've ever had any data loss, if you've ever had any ransomware requests, you need to have you need to have a third party risk assessment right away. Okay. We just want to make sure that anything that the way that they got in has been patched, right? So you skip the line. You get priority. If you're getting warning messages or pop-ups. So we get a lot of requests here, just kind of random companies will call and say, hey, I got a message on my screen and it's telling me to do this. So that is alarming, right? So we have some steps here that we follow with regards to how we're gonna mitigate that. So if you're getting warning signs or pop-ups, you might want to get a third party risk assessment. If you don't have a method to report a security incident, okay, now I work a lot, my team works a lot in local government. We work a lot in compliance. It's kind of what we do. And I am obligated to report security incidences. So I'm obligated to do that. I have a process to do that so that if any of the companies that I work with truly do get an attack or a breach, I know I have to report it to the appropriate authorities. So do you have a method to do that? Okay. So you need to know and understand whether or not you actually need to do that, depending on your niche. All right. So, or if you have no idea what you have or don't have securing your business, I cannot stress how important it is for you to get a third party risk assessment. Okay. So when I talk to a business owner who's called me because there's something going on that they're concerned about, they have no idea what they've got in place or what they don't have in place. My first thing is, please let me do a risk assessment because that is the x-ray that's going to help me determine whether or not your company is secure. Okay. So I need that. If not, I'd be running blind, right? And that's no way to make technology decisions, right? You got to make your decisions based on factual information. And I can't get that factual information unless I do a risk assessment. Okay. So if any of those things are triggers for you, it's time to get your third party security analysis. All right. Now, why third party? Okay. So everyone says, why a third party? I have an IT team. I have a person. You may have an employee, right? It doesn't matter. You should never proofread your own work, period. Right. I'm not sure how many times I have proofread documents in this office, right? Because we never want documents to go out with any type of errors. We publish a newsletter here. I'm sure many of you get that newsletter. And I write the newsletter and I proof the newsletter dozens of times throughout the month, just because I'm trying to make sure that the content is good and that there's no errors. And inevitably, when I get my team involved and I say, hey, newsletter is complete, proof it for errors, it is almost a guarantee that they're going to find some typographical error, some punctuation issues. So I've been looking at it too long, right? And sometimes what's in my head I don't see the errors. So I can't proofread my own work. And that holds true for this company too, right? Which is why I've hired a third party company that's going to help me with the risk assessments because I can't grade my own work either, right? Which is why I've hired a third party. All right. So avoid becoming a victim. That's the goal here, right? The goal of a risk assessment is just to make sure that what you believe you have in place is actually in place. All right. So that's how simple it is. We just want to avoid becoming a victim. All right. So get a risk assessment no less than once a year. Okay. Now I say that because some of the companies we work with in our compliance industries, like insurance, legal, CPAs, accounting, automotive, you guys are required. You guys are required to get a risk assessment. Some of you at least once a year, local government in particular, once a year. And then some of you are required to have it at least every 90 days, so quarterly. And we have a program called Cyber and that Cyber program is a continual, right? We help you get better. It does the scans automatically. It's an incredible program. It just lets us patch holes where we need to patch holes, and it identifies any places that we have gaps. And that's important for me as an IT person, a cybersecurity expert. I need to know where the gaps are. Okay. So don't you. You need to know where the gaps are. All right. So here's what will happen. We will analyze your network. So any risk assessment, it's not just mine, but any risk assessment is going to analyze your network, right? It's going to take a 30,000 foot view at what's happening with your network. We will meet with you and review the results. So you will get the report. It's a very detailed report. It kind of runs through all of the gaps that it could find, that our third party could find with regards to just taking a look at a surface level of your network. And it'll give you a simple steps you can take to protect yourself and your data. So that's the goal. The goal is that you educate yourself with what the gaps are. Okay. Hopefully there are none, but normally there is. So we just want to identify what those are so that you can take action. Now, if you have an IT company above and beyond CST, so for all of my clients, you all don't count. But if you if you have an IT firm that's helping you, ask them about this. They cannot do the risk assessment themselves. So if they say, "Oh, we can just get eyes on all that," no, they need and should be recommending a third party company. Okay. Now, just as a heads up, these risk assessments can be expensive. If you Google risk assessments, they're going to run between 8 grand and 30,000, depending on your size, right? So depending on the size of your company. All right. So just note to self, it's not unusual that your risk assessments will cost you money, right? I would rather see you pay 8 grand, 10 grand, 12 grand, than, six figures, 100,000 on a breach. Okay. So it's kind of the better of the two evils. I'd rather see you identify and be able to fix those patches. Okay. All right. So here's what you can do. I do offer two risk assessments every month. It's part of what my third party company offers me. I then offer them out to prospects. Now, if you want one of those third party risk assessments, please just go to that link on your screen. That will be able to get you signed up. I am restricted. I don't get a lot. If you miss out on that opportunity, I would have to charge you. So I do offer free third party risk assessments. So that is the place that you are going to go to request that assessment. Okay. Once again, we are offering it free of charge, and it does give you kind of that inside x ray of your network to kind of determine what the gaps are. You need to know whether it's from me or whether it's from your current IT company. I don't care. I just need to make sure that you understand what the risk assessments are and why you should have one. Okay. Minimally once a year, depending on your industry, it might be more frequent. Okay. All right. So, Sarah, I know you're on the line, and honestly, I'm not sure if I promoted you. So, let me do that really quickly. So, Sarah's going to be coming on just so that I can see whether or not there is any questions in the Q&A. Also, please, I want to remind you guys that we do publish all of our videos, all of our webinars are published on YouTube at CST Group Inc. So this recording will go up into our YouTube channel. And that way you can share it with your team. I have every recording there from the very conception of my Wednesday webinars. So you can always go back and reference them, drive your team there if you think that it was educational. And that way it's a means of getting information out without you actually having to do it. Just drive them to the YouTube channel. So Sarah, do you have anything?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, guys, I am actually completing a little bit early, which is unusual for me. I appreciate all of you very much. If you need a third-party risk assessment, please reach out. The phone numbers are on the screen. Sarah's email's on the screen. She will get everything scheduled and set up. I appreciate you very much, and have a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.